About everything here, right to the floor show. Joining me now, SIBO trader Scott Bauer and Henyon and Walsh Asset Management's Kevin Mon, who, by the way, likes one pharma name in particular. Scott, if anything's sleepy, it's the VIX. Volatility plumbing a four-week low as stocks jump. Is this a calm before the storm or just another day in the bull market?
Yeah, I do think it's really just another day, because even when we saw the VIX, pop over the last several weeks, it never really got above 17, 18 level or so. But, when you look at all of this data, Liz, the Fed is not the only one that's data dependent. The entire market right now is data dependent. As you mentioned, we got the JOLTS report, right? Much lower than expected. And look what the market did here. And like you said, we have such a data dump this week with PCE, GDP, consumer spending, ADP data, and then the big jobs number on Friday. So we're going to see some big moves in this marketplace based on what these economic reports have to say. This is a big if, big if. If the data the rest of this week is, let's say, tame, similar to what we saw with JOLTS today, I think the S&P tacks on at least another 100 points or so prior to the next Fed meeting. That's going to put us back at the gap around that 45, 75, where we were right at the beginning of August. And I think if the opposite happens, if we start to see very strong eco data over the next week, we could retest that 43.60. Overall, I think there's more upside than there is to downside in the marketplace right now.
Yeah, we're looking at an S&P right now. The level is at 4,491. Scott, I do have to tell you that as we continue to watch these markets, there's nothing slow about what's happening today. Although, yes, in the aggregate, we have a pretty ugly August. August is traditionally one of the ugliest months, along with September. But technology is the big trade today. Tech and consumer discretionary. Some of that's Best Buy, of course. But if you look at the tech picture at the moment, that seems to once again be rearing its head after a couple of weeks of a pullback here.
Absolutely. And you know what? Over the last several weeks, and especially last week, according to Bank of America, their clients bought almost $4 billion of U.S. equities last week. So there's a lot of retail out there taking advantage of the sell-off and, some of that tech weakness that we saw over the last several weeks. And I believe, Liz, honestly, even if we get to that September Fed meeting and they raise another quarter or they hold but indicate that they're going to raise again in November, I think the market is accepting of that as long as this data that we get over the next week is in line, kind of on the soft side. And again, I really think that we can hit those highs that we were at the end of July coming into this month. And then it's, it's all bets are off then, because then all of a sudden we're going to be hitting earnings season again into the last quarter of the year. So I like the setup here. Obviously, everything depends what we see over the next couple of days with the eco data.